In a courtroom where power meets principle, one man stands alone, facing the highest court in the land, not as a tech mogul, but as an unexpected defender of the Constitution. No one expected the Supreme Court chamber to fall silent so quickly. The sound of shuffling papers and whispered side conversations evaporated the moment Justice Amy Coney Barrett leaned forward and fixed her gaze on Elon Musk. "Mr. Musk," she said, her voice calm but laced with steel, "your actions demonstrate a pattern of disregard for established legal precedent." Musk, standing alone behind the respondent's table, met her stare without blinking. He wore a simple dark suit and a blue tie. The folder in front of him, closed but seemingly weighty, sat untouched. His legal team remained seated behind him, silent by his request. "With all due respect, Justice Barrett," Musk replied, measured and steady, "that's not an accurate characterization." Barrett didn't flinch. "Your company, XC Corp, has ignored multiple federal requests to comply with content regulation mandates under the revised 2023 Communications Act. Are you claiming to be exempt from the rules that govern every other platform?" "We've never claimed exemption," Musk answered, eyes unwavering. "What we've done is challenge the constitutionality of those directives." Barrett arched an eyebrow. "The record shows 17 formal notices of noncompliance." 16, Musk corrected politely. "And we responded to each with legal rationale grounded in precedent." A hushed gasp rippled through the chamber. Few dared interrupt a Supreme Court justice, and none without consequence. Yet Musk remained composed, as if he had practiced this exchange in his mind 1,000 times. Barrett narrowed her eyes. "This court has little patience for technical corrections. What's at issue here is a consistent refusal to comply with federal law." Musk slowly opened the folder. "What's truly at issue," he said, voice gaining momentum, "is whether a government agency can use regulation to compel speech control, something this court has already ruled against." Barrett's posture stiffened slightly. "Are you referring to NetChoice v. Paxton?" "Yes, Your Honor," Musk replied. "In that decision, you wrote that the government cannot use regulatory frameworks to pressure private platforms into enforcing speech policies on its behalf." A current passed through the courtroom. Justice Clarence Thomas leaned in. Justice Elena Kagan glanced at her colleagues. Barrett's expression remained unreadable, but the sharpness in her tone had softened by a degree. Barrett flipped through her notes. Musk continued, tapping lightly on a page in the folder. "These are internal FCC communications obtained through FOIA requests." Page 47. Commissioner Thompson writes, and I quote, "While Barrett's opinion restricts our direct authority over content moderation, the technical compliance regulations give us an alternative pathway to achieve the same outcome." A wave of gasps swept through the courtroom. Justice Alito adjusted his glasses. Kagan leaned in again. Justice Jackson, seated at the far end, didn't speak, but her gaze lingered on Musk. Barrett stared at the document passed to her by the clerk. Her eyes scanned the highlighted sections with quick, practiced precision. "Mr. Solicitor General," she said, voice cool and crisp, "do you wish to address these documents?" The government's attorney stood, visibly tense. "Your Honors," he began, "these communications lack context. They were never part of the lower court record because the FCC sealed them." Musk interrupted, calmly, precisely. "We obtained them 3 weeks ago through a successful FOIA lawsuit in the Ninth Circuit." Justice Thomas spoke up. "Are you suggesting these documents were deliberately concealed from judicial review?" "The evidence speaks for itself, Justice Thomas," Musk replied. "They show a clear intent to sidestep this court's precedent using bureaucratic tools." Barrett looked up, face composed but eyes sharper than ever. "Mr. Musk, your claim is that the FCC knowingly attempted to achieve through regulation what the First Amendment prohibits the government from doing directly." "Yes, Your Honor. That's exactly what happened." Barrett paused. Her fingers drummed once on the bench. "You're referencing NetChoice v. Paxton, where this court held that regulatory pressure cannot be used to indirectly control protected speech." Musk nodded. "And Youngstown v. Sawyer, which allows parties to seek judicial relief prior to complying with unconstitutional directives. We sought emergency stays in 3 circuits." All were denied, narrowly. Barrett's eyes didn't leave his. "I'm aware of the dissents," she said softly, "including one written by Justice Jackson." For a moment, the courtroom held its breath. The Solicitor General made one last attempt. "Your Honors, Mr. Musk is not a lawyer. His interpretation of these rulings is flawed." But Barrett didn't look at him. Her eyes remained on the documents. "Counselor," she said, "the constitutional validity of these directives is precisely what appears to be at issue." Then, turning to Musk, "Please continue with your argument." The atmosphere had shifted. Musk was no longer the billionaire defendant on trial, he was now the man pointing to a breach of constitutional boundaries. "Justice Barrett," he said, voice calm, almost resolute, "your opinion in NetChoice v. Paxton made one thing abundantly clear. The government cannot pressure platforms to moderate speech indirectly. That principle guided every step we took." He tapped the folder again. "These memos show the FCC exploring how to use compliance procedures as a proxy for content control. They knew what they were doing. They just didn't call it by name." Justice Alito cleared his throat. "If these communications are legitimate, this could represent a serious constitutional violation." The Solicitor General raised a hand in protest. "These are isolated excerpts." "They're not," Musk interrupted. "There's a clear pattern. The FCC tried to compel what it couldn't command." Barrett leaned back in her chair. "So your position," she said slowly, "is that you weren't defying lawful regulation, but resisting unconstitutional overreach." "Exactly," Musk replied. "We documented every objection. We weren't being rebellious. We were defending First Amendment rights." 3 days later, in a rare move, the court issued an administrative stay, freezing all FCC enforcement of the contested directives. News exploded across every platform. Clips of the hearing flooded social media. Legal commentators called it a turning point in digital regulation. And Elon Musk, once expected to be the antagonist, found himself recast by many as a reluctant constitutionalist. When asked by reporters how he had remained so composed under pressure, Musk gave only a brief answer. "I'm not a lawyer," he said. "But when the Constitution's at stake, you do your homework."